I know what it's like to be a teacher in a classroom. I've had 10 years experience in various classrooms. I've worked with inclusion. I've been in a resource room, and I've worked in a room where every child in there had challenging behavior. And I know the challenges that teachers face to try to teach the material that needs to be covered and deal with the interruptions and the problems that occur. I know how frustrating it is to have these great plans and them seem to unravel and come apart because something occurs that not that you didn't plan for, but that it's just an unscheduled event in your day. And I know what it's like to have plans you know you can't implement because there's going to be something that occurs. So I understand the frustration. And so what we have to do as teachers is we have to be prepared. We have to understand that for most students, challenging behavior occurs in times where they don't understand what you're asking them to do, or they have downtime or free time, sometimes that they've created themselves within your classroom, and they have trouble during transitions. For middle school and secondary teachers, that's a nightmare when classes change because that's when most of your behaviors are going to occur. Challenging behaviors occur in places like the bathroom, in the cafeteria, in the hallways, during reading time in a center when the teacher has to be teaching somewhere else and the kids are doing a center-based project. And so it's so very important that during those times you have a very structured environment in an unstructured setting. And so we have to shape that. Some of the ways that we shape that is we have a process for how they enter our classroom. They know that when I come in, I have to do A, I have to do B, I have to do C. And it needs to take up however long it takes for the teacher to gather their thoughts together, for attendance to be taken, for lunches to be set, for the routines of the morning. The other thing that teachers need to realize that will keep behaviors to a minimum is that they have to have a personal relationship with that student. And I'm talking about a professional relationship with the student, but one that says, hey, I notice you have on a new shirt today, that looks really good. Or I'm glad that you've come into the classroom with a smile on your face. Something that makes a connection within the first 2 minutes with every student in that classroom. It's always good, too, when the teachers have an element of surprise, something that they start class with that's exciting, that's new, that brings a connection immediately, that sets up the rest of the classroom for what they're going to teach. So those things keep the beginning of class, those challenging behaviors, to a minimum. But what happens when you get into a lesson and you've got this student who's finished, this student who's barely started, and the students who are somewhere in the middle? You have to have set aside what you're going to do with those kids. How are you going to give additional instruction to this student who's still struggling and for this student who's already finished? And it's not always a good fit to put those two students together. Sometimes it may, but it's not always a good fit because what we do know about our gifted kids through research is they work well with other gifted children. And so we need to kind of pair them and have another project or an enhancement to what we're trying to teach, as well as somehow bring the other student up, reduce the amount of work, modify what we want them to do, so that we have everybody engaged. Engagement is the key to keeping behavior down. And then during transition time, we need to have a set way that we transition. It's not good for you to stand at the door and say, okay, see you tomorrow, and then everybody dashes for the door at one time. You're going to have pushing, you're going to have shoving, you're going to have inappropriate things that happen. So just having processes where we come into the class, where we release the class, how we operate when we're in the cafeteria, how we operate in the bathroom, those are areas where we can really structure our unstructured time and keep behaviors to a minimum.